Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blink podcast, the final episode for 2024. And of course, we are going to do the year in review, the problems we faced, the challenges we overcame, and the strategies and lessons we can take from those into 2025. Hold on to your hats because we've got a special guest next on Blink. Hello and welcome to Blink. Special guest John Shackleton in the middle. No stranger to viewers and listeners to this show. John Shackleton, high performance pseudo psychologist, sometimes Santa. What a great time. What a great guest to have on the show.
Sometimes Father Christmas at this time, actually, I have to say. Yeah, I'm getting that old.
The side hustle of Santa. And of course, Darren Pratley, here every week. Always, never goes anywhere.
How are you, man?
I'm really good. Things are flying into the end of the year. Not enough time to get everything done, but that's the way the year always ends, right?
Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. Hope everyone out there's got their plans, got their shopping done. You got your shopping done, John?
I only have to buy one present. I've got a fantastically well-organised wife, and I shall buy that present for her this afternoon.
Oh, so good. Good boy. What about you, Jonathan? Have you done yours?
That's what it is. She's a control freak. Won't let me do any buying or anything like that.
Well, you know, some of the things you've bought in the past, John, come back to haunt you sometimes. You don't get that responsibility anymore.
Have you done yours, Jonathan? Have you done yours?
No, I'm still looking for Brooke's birthday present, actually, for about 4 years ago. Brooke being Darren's daughter.
She'll remind you.
Chops me up every time she sees me that I haven't given her a birthday present. I have actually got it. I just can't find it again to send it since I moved offices.
Don't you love it?
So good.
When you got that cat recently, when you got that kitten recently, I should have said, Brooke, there you go, Mary. You should have chopped me out and said, this is from Jonathan. Happy birthday. But no, I haven't. I'm not sure which is it. A little Dora the Explorer, here she is. Hey, Brookie.
I heard you.
Tell him off, Brookie.
I love it.
You still haven't given me my birthday present from like 2 years ago.
I know. I think about it every day.
Thank you very much.
I got you the cat.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye.
Right, we move on with the episode.
Thanks for calling in. All right. Year in review. I'm actually quite interested in this conversation, actually, because I don't know about you guys, but having been in business for a long period of time, this year has been a bit of a challenge. And I think it's a good one for us just to dissect a bit and have a bit of a think about what it actually means and maybe some of the learnings.
Yeah, I think this year could be summed up in one word. If we were to sum it up in one word, I'm going to ask you guys to have one word to sum it up as well. I would use the word sluggish.
Right.
Things were just a little bit harder to push.
Yeah.
You could get momentum, but you had to work harder to get it.
Nice. Yep.
What do you reckon, Jay Shack?
I think it's probably true for most people. Having embraced retirement, it's not true for me, but I do tend to find, and if I compare it in the sport environment, it's like the area of going through an injury and then spending the next 6 months rehabilitating and getting back to your quality level. It's bloody hard work, but you often don't go anywhere. You go sort of backwards. Psychologically, that's tough. And I think that's probably where the business world is at the moment. It's gone through a pretty bad injury and it's really striving to get back fit again.
So nice. One word, injured.
Injured. Yeah. That'll do.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Mine's tough. My word's actually tough. And it's just that tough environment has, you know the old adage, if you're in a tough environment, you either get tougher to match up to it or you get out. Well, I think this year is definitely defining that for a lot of people. You were either in, or because you're going to, toughen it up and really get focused on it, or you're going to go and look for something that better suits.
Yeah, I must admit I've had some moments I've had some moments this year where I've sat there and gone, a cushy corporate job might be nice and safe, but you just have to put on your big boy pants and keep pushing on.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
I think, and that probably is for me is that sense of that determination, and I think when you look at the topics that we've got today, I think this year has, we're coming out of a very unique market environment. So you think about where we were before COVID. So before COVID, it was not a really strong economic climate. The world environment was just ticking along. The world was what it was. If you were going okay, you probably were going okay. And if you weren't, you probably had to look a bit internally to improve your business. But the world was what it was. Then next minute, the whole world gets tipped upside down with COVID. And then in Melbourne, you're exactly the same as where we were. You had a government that actually fire hosed large amounts of cash into our economies, and we've all suffered a pretty tough hangover from the back of that. And now we've got
that fire hose, aren't we? We're paying now for somebody pushing money into the economy. Yeah.
They haven't found the off tap over here yet.
Right.
They're still blowing money on big builds and there's things like they want to build this train line, but they're doing all the digging works even though it's not approved, and they need the federal government to fund it. But now the federal government's just come out and said our budget's $21 billion out. So,
whoa!
But you go and see the works at these areas, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people working on this stuff, and as a taxpayer it's not approved. So if you stop it, you've wasted that money. But if we go ahead, we're cooked, because it's going to be $120 billion build to catch a train between stations no one wants to go to.
Yeah. We've had that, mate. We've had that in Auckland here. Massive build, massive. I mean, I think actually, truly, it will be a fantastic big step in the transport system for Auckland. But man, it's a massive bill. It's a massive cost to your city, and it's the money's got to come from somewhere. And when you look around these economies at the moment, they're not flush with cash. And you start talking about raising rates or raising taxes, and people are looking at their bank balance going, well, where the hell's that money going to come from?
Yeah, I think we have 5 new taxes introduced last week.
5.
Interestingly, 5, just a cool 5. And then on the back of the announcement, the Treasurer decided I'm out. So no more money in the cupboard. He said, I'm out of here. But the interesting one was, Darren, and this will tickle your fancy, there's a New Zealand guy who's moved his family over here. And he went and did his regular shop at Aldi in Australia. And it was double. With $1,000. Spent $1,000 at Aldi. It's a lot of meerkat sensor lights.
Yeah.
Is that a month or a week?
Just one shop.
Jesus
he goes, normally
Christ.
in New Zealand it's about $540. It's come out $1,000 in Australia. And this is what people are facing.
Wow.
This is real world.
We are
things.
being constantly told that the Aussie climate, or not say the climate, that's the weather, but the economic climate and the environment is better, and it's a better place to be. You get paid more and all of that. But actually, when you're starting to hear the actual living conditions and the costs and all that sort of stuff, man, it ain't that all it's cracked up to be. And when you look at our economy, it's all massively smaller than yours. We are really struggling to get ourselves going again. It's definitely a tough, challenging time.
It's interesting because it changes in Australia, and it's very specific. So Victoria, where I am, Victoria is a state, I think they're saying, has got more debt in this population of 5 million people than all the other states combined.
Yeah.
Because we went the hardest on lockdown. We went the biggest spend. We got the big payments when you were on lockdown. They were handing out $1,400 a week or something to people. It was crazy.
What about the States? I think the States is much, much worse than that, though, isn't it? Oh, aren't we talking about massive, massive debt in the States?
This is the state. This is the one state. The federal. I mean, you can go to New South Wales or Queensland, and things just instantly to a Victorian feel more affordable.
Yeah.
And it's got people wanting to move. Like property's cheaper. But it's the things like petrol here jumped 50 cents yesterday.
What?
Went from $1.69 to $2.10.
What?
Now, I remember when I was a journalist, I remember doing the stories about petrol reaching $1. And I remember it went from 92 cents. And when it went from 92 cents to 94 cents, there was outcry. Then it went from 94 to 95 more. Then it went to 99. The whole world nearly stopped. There was protests. People had organised. And this is the thing that they did. There was this university lecturer, and he said, listen, to get petrol prices under control, if everybody just doesn't fill their car up tomorrow, it'll put so much backlog of fuel in the system that they'll have to drop the prices to sell it. And so we had people taking days off work not to fill their cars with petrol on that day. It was amazing. And it worked. So we need to get that sort of activism back in the world. That'll be the fun. But before we move on to the first topic, the challenge of business, we do, I think, Darren, and this is going to shake your bones, acknowledge the 5-year anniversary of COVID, December 19. COVID-19, 5 years ago, was discovered. Didn't shut Australia down until February the following year, but 5 years. 5 years ago, folks. And it's still probably the greatest excuse I get for not doing work from people
that's
on the planet.
That's
Sorry. Someone caught a cold 5
Don't
years
start
ago,
me.
and I can't do that for you. I apologise. Like, they're literally still rolling out the effect of COVID. Now, John, I think you'll back us up here. There's definitely been a psychological impact. I see it in kids. I see it in elderly. But, you know, I think our ancestors would be looking down on us and saying, we lived through the Great Depression. We lived through 2 world wars. We lived through the Holocaust. We lived through all these things.
Yeah.
You've got to get up and go. And I think that's what this year reminds us, is that you can't keep hanging on to the skeletons or the ghosts of the past and expect the future to be better.
The media have got a big price to pay with this, because they will take, I suspect it'll be on the news tonight, the 5-year anniversary, but, you know, and we go through crap and then we get reminded of it the next year and the next year, and forever we get reminded. I don't know why we have to dwell on it, to be honest. I really don't. I'd rather just forget about it and get on with life. Yeah. But
the reminder on the news tonight will be there's a new vaccine and you all should take it, and no one's going to take it. And then the government's going to have this big debt because they're going to have all these vaccines.
Yeah, rightio.
Anyway,
Yeah,
let's not turn this into a doomsday episode. Let's turn this into a positive.
Yes.
Positive from now on in.
Let's not watch the news tonight. How's that?
No.
That should solve the problem.
I don't watch the news. I think the future, 2025 is going to be starkly different to 24. I think 24 was a year of transition, and I think 2025 is going to be the launch pad. I know in Australia, a lot of people are waiting for shifts on interest rates. That was predicted originally to happen before Christmas. Didn't happen. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to happen in 2025. And I think a stabilising of interest rates helps economies, particularly consumer confidence.
There you go. That's the word.
The first hint of a cut, just any sort of shift downwards, I think things are going to take off. What do you reckon, Darren?
I agree. I feel like the way the economy is now, we're sort of at that cusp where you could almost talk yourself into another low, but there's a whole lot of momentum to actually get up out of this. But I'm not sure that we've got the numbers on the right side of the ledger on this one. I feel like there's still a lot of people looking for a lot of problems and a lot of excuses. And yet I've got a lot of people that are going, actually, we need to get ourselves out of this. But I think the weight of numbers is still dragging their feet a bit, and it's still pretty tough. And I think that's, John, again, it's that aspirational piece that actually we really need.
We need something, and the crazy thing is it's just one tiny thing. And I think I heard a stat the other day about the increase in spending last week being the biggest increase that we've had for years. Okay, it's related to Christmas, but it's much more than last year's at this time. So I think people are genuinely moving forward, and I think Christmas might well be that boom for people, that switch. And it is a crazy situation, but you only need one switch.
Yes, totally. Yeah, I agree.
I think interestingly, retail is the canary in the coal mine here. And I think if interest rates had gone up prior to Christmas, retail would be dead. If interest rates had gone down, people would have gone on a feeding frenzy. Retail would have boomed. But then the bills wouldn't have got paid in February.
Yeah.
And so...
but you see over here, this is a bit different with over here, you see, because we have been in a pretty tough economic climate. Retail hammered, hospo hammered. We're seeing at the moment, definitely spending has gone up, but I don't think everybody's feeling like they're flush with cash. I think what we're doing is we're doing what we need to do, and everybody's feeling like that they are feeling like they need to make sure that there's a good Christmas. But I'm not convinced that everyone's got the massive amount of cash that all of a sudden we're all feeling more wealthier. It's still a bit of a grind.
Yeah, and I think that's the trap, though, Darren. It's
always because you've got it all, Darren. You've got all the cash.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll have the detail till after, and that is that rather than people buying cars and holiday houses and boats, they're buying big TVs.
Yep.
Electric scooters, like all the gimmicky type stuff, rather than the big investment stuff. And I think that's what we're seeing is that I think we're going to see big ticket is a bit soft, and mid purchase is going to be up.
Yep.
And that can sometimes give you a false sense of security in the economy.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that, and I think it's going to be getting the economy going actually, and this is probably some of the other areas that we've got to talk about here, is just in terms of where we see the challenge of business for this year. So as we go, having gone through 2024, the challenge of business there's been lots of challenges, and I think that's something for me is just getting people to sort of have a reflection on 2024, and take away some real key learnings on that, and just get thinking about, well, what were my learnings? What am I taking into 2025 that actually is going to make next year different and better?
Well, let's talk about it, John. What's been your learning, witnessing the current environment? What's been your lesson that people can take into 2025?
My personal learning is that I'm still struggling with it, but overcoming the guilt of not working. It's not a financial thing. It's this thing that I've worked for the last 60 years, and now I'm not working. I feel guilty. I've got that all the time, and I think that's my own personal learning. But I think the biggest learning if I was outside of doing what I'm doing now, the biggest learning I think is that people do not financially plan for their future. They spend what they've got now without thinking about the future, without putting a little bit away out of each pay packet, putting some money away, because we're going to have shit in the future too. Times are going to be tough. We'll come out of this, we're going to boost. But in 5 years' time, we're going to go through it again. And if you've got a little nest egg, do you feel more comfortable because you've got this little nest egg over here, you can rely on.
What do you reckon, Darren? What's your lesson out of this year?
A big one for me. A big one for me is actually my word in this one is level. So just having a think about the year of what level you have to work at, or what level you have to recover at, or what level you have to spend time at. And I think for me, this year has been about the perception of how much you need to do to be successful at the level you're happy to be successful at. And I think this year, level of work volume has gone up, but actually the importance of recovery and how much time we have to actually take in doing some recovery from the level of work that we now need to do. And I feel like that we've got a little bit sucked away from understanding that, the level of work level or the performance level we have to do now is actually considerably higher than where we've maybe been sucked into over those last 5 years.
Yeah, and I
think. Do you think that's a permanent change, Darren?
I think it has been, to be honest.
So
I feel like we, as in a lot of environments, we've been pulled back into a. And you've just please understand, I'm not saying that this isn't a focus, but I constantly am hearing this. Are you okay? Is everything okay? Maybe take some time out. How are you feeling about the environment? Are you okay where things are at? Look, maybe just take the pressure off. And I'm hearing that so much, but then I'm seeing this massive drop in people's performance, and when I'm working less, I'm feeling a bit more that I've got more time for me and I'm not working as hard and I'm feeling a bit more, but then my financial stresses are going up through the roof, and my feeling of not being successful is going through the roof. So yes, I may be on one side of the coin feeling that my life is not as fast paced and, I'm not working as hard, but then the repercussions of this on the other side I'm seeing is massive. And I just sort of feel at the moment that we've just got to get, and that's why my word level is what is the required level. And I think sometimes we've got to, sometimes you don't feel comfortable. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it is bloody hard, but that's actually what you've got to be able to work your way through.
Yeah, and I think
that's
just adding to that, sorry, John.
Isn't it?
Sorry, John. I think adding to that is, the pain that's in front of you to do the task is a fraction of the pain that's down the road if you don't do it.
Totally.
And that's what we're suffering from here.
Yeah.
I get it. And I'll be open and honest. Yeah, I've had some mental health challenges across the journey for different reasons. Different things have happened. This year's been a tough year for me on a family front. But, there's this constant narrative on social media about mental health and mental health awareness, and I know it's important, but I was at a conference and a lady jumped up and she said, I'm suffering from this and that, and then the next minute, 2 others jumped up, and then 4 others jumped up, and it was like they were jumping over each other to sort of put their hands up about it, and I'm like, I know that's important to them and that's whatever, but I sort of looked at this phenomenon and went, are we breeding it here? Like, are we breeding it? I'm not judging anyone here. I'm just asking a legitimate question. Like, is it catching on? And then we're losing this whole, you got to be tough to survive tough times. But we're providing this exit and this outlet where people can avoid the tough decisions to get through the tough times. And 5 years on from a hiccup, we're still avoiding the challenge. I'm trying to be diplomatic here.
I think we've always avoided the challenge. I really do think we've always run away from hard work. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about human beings. We run away from hard work. We'd rather take it easy.
No, I don't know.
You're dead right.
Look what our grandfathers and historically before us, look what they bloody did. Don't tell me they walked away from hard work, man.
They didn't have any choice. We have choices. You can sponge off the government here if you want to, and you're not going to starve. Our grandparents would have starved. So they didn't. Their motivation was very different to what it is now. Somebody can give up and just sponge off the government. Now we've got a situation where it's bloody impossible to fail, to be perfectly honest. You can do absolutely nothing and still get a chunk of money at the end of the month. There are very different pressures on people now than there were 20, 30 years ago. Well, 50 years ago.
Yeah, I think there's a real shift as well of focusing on oneself, which I think is good.
Yes,
to a degree. I think that was needed to a degree. There was always the Wolf of Wall Street, chase the alpha, eat each other on the way up. I certainly lived through that in media world.
Yeah.
You had to be cautious of the people sitting around you more than the people on the opposition. But now we've gone to this, and I think, Darren, you hit it right. We've gone to this, have a mental health day or a personal health day and take the morning off and this and that. But the numbers are the numbers, and it's hurting the numbers because pre-COVID, particularly in the industries where Darren and I work, the numbers almost wrote themselves.
Totally.
You just had to show up and you do something. We're in that sluggish market now, though, and it's time where you got to maybe push a bit harder, take a bit more pain. Certainly look after yourself and be aware of your personal health, and mental health. I'm not throwing that away.
Yeah. No. And I'm not either, because I am 1,000% conscious of it, probably more now than I've ever been, thanks to John and his ongoing chipping in my ear. But the thing for me is this: I've been into some environments where, you have the honest conversation about, look, what are you actually doing here? Like, seriously, this is industry benchmark. This is where you should be. You're about 30% below industry benchmark. We need you to think about what you need to be doing to step it up. And the comment I get is, Darren, I feel like you might be bullying me. And Darren, I just am feeling that this environment isn't supporting my mental health. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm 100% supporting your mental health. But what level of performance should I require for the pay that you get?
There's no greater stress than a repossession notice from the bank, let me tell you.
You can see why this has happened, though, if you think about it, because we were wrapped in cotton wool for 2 or 3 years when COVID was around, and now we're facing the reality of stuff. The cotton wool's off, but we liked the feeling of being in cotton wool, so we can blame everything we want. The truth of the matter is, we were wrapped up and protected during that period, which is probably from a long-term perspective not a good thing.
Yeah. I think it's made us I think the environment is a lot weaker and less resilient than what it should be.
I think we spoke about this in one of the earlier episodes. It was a quote from Dana White, I'm pretty sure it was Dana White, not David Goggins, but David Goggins is important in this conversation too. Where he talks to his kids. So Dana White's the head of the UFC, the fastest growing sport in the world. He helped Trump get in. Like, he's stands for things. He doesn't muck around. He's not afraid of offending people for sharing his beliefs, but he also lets them share their beliefs and doesn't get offended. But he talks to his kids about being a savage. If you can raise your kids or be in business and be a bit of a savage in this environment, you'll leave everyone behind. And so he's almost employing or promoting his kids to come in with a bit of savagery, be a bit cutthroat, go hard, and you will amplify.
This is the hilarious thing. You say the word savage in a business environment today, and you've got the human resources department running down.
It's not the human resources department. It's the chief people officer.
Yeah, like, look, we just want to make sure your language is much more inclusive, and we don't want to make people feel uncomfortable in the environment. I'm like, come on, One minute you've got savage, and the other end you've got snowflake, and I'm not sure what got in the middle.
I think 2025 is going to be the year of the savage.
Yeah.
Thank God for retirement. I don't have to face crap anymore.
When the tough get going, the tough retire.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Darren, let's move on to the key areas that we're focusing on for 2025.
Yeah, I reckon these three, this is what I think, and I'm going to go number one as drive for outcome, because I reckon, and I want your guys' opinions on this one, but for me, I reckon next year is going to be determined by how much you are going to have that inner drive to create an outcome. if you haven't got that drive to get your car out of the mud and get it going, you're going to get stuck, and gradually the tide's coming in, and I'm concerned about that. So number one for me is just making sure you're really clear on why you're doing what you're doing and what level it needs to be done at.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. But I think it's always the answer. But during tough times, it becomes more obvious and more poignant, more important. You're dead right. That drive is really, really important, really important. But I notice actually you've jumped to number 2 in the list, because number 1 on the list was this skill thing. And yeah. I just want to cover something about skill. It struck me recently, as you guys know, I've swum all my life, right? 3 or 4 times a week I'm down the pool, and do you know, every single session I do 15 or 20 minutes of skill practice. And I'm pretty bloody good at it already, you know, but I still do it.
Yeah.
And how many of you real estate agents, you know, they get a pitch together and they think, oh, that's pretty good, and then they never practice the bloody thing again. Well, sports people are constantly practicing. We got to practice and practice, and you get sick of it. I understand that, but that's part of the drive thing again, isn't it?
Yep. I think that takes us back to episode 8 this year, Darren, about the art of negotiation. And
yeah,
and true. We're getting the feedback of, I'm just not getting the deals done. I can't get them across the line. And I think our response for the whole episode, if we were to encapsulate it, was, well, when was the last time you did some practice and training around the art of negotiation? When was the last time you read a book about how to cut a deal?
It is just unbelievable. I will tell you this wee story. I'm working in a business. It is a very high sale business, so you've got to be really on your game to get these quite high-priced items across the line. So you really got to know your stuff, and you got to do a great job. I have a one-on-one session with a person who's been in the business for 3 years, so 3 years in the game, right? Says to me in a one-on-one conversation, Darren, you're critiquing my sales volume, and I understand why. But to be honest, my biggest weakness is just how to understand the customer need and then how to close the deal. Now, sorry, this is after 3 years in the job.
How much money has he let go?
Seriously, I seriously almost walked out of the office to find myself a softball bat, not to hit him, but to hit me. I'm just sitting there going, this has to be the nuttiest thing, that you've got somebody who actually is a really good guy, and he's actually very good with customers, but has never practiced or never had any focus on the scripting or the negotiation process. So for me, I gave him a wee bit of a hard time.
Yeah, but props to him for being aware of it.
Yes,
and admitting it.
Totally. Big tick.
Massive.
I did give him a little bit of a hard time. I said to him, so what's the skill you want? He goes, I'd just like to, what's the first engagement with a customer? So I got my laptop, turned it around in front of him and went to YouTube. And then in the search bar said, script for initial conversation with new customer, hit enter. And there was about 128,000 examples.
Yeah. You can almost go, you can go to AI now and give them your industry, give them what you sell, how much you sell it for, and ask for the script, and AI will write it for you based on all the best content.
But I'm going, he sat there and he was like, oh my God. Wow.
He's been searching cat videos. He's been searching for cat videos.
If you look at our society, it's not geared towards learning skill. It's geared towards appreciating people with skill. It's like the world thinks you're born with the ability to do something, and you're not. We have to learn it. Every single person has to learn it. And even those that are really, really good at something, they weren't really, really good when they started. They were crap. But if you watched, and nobody watches TV these days, but TV's about that. It's about, let's focus on the super skill that this person has got. Yeah, where did they get it from? Where did it come from? I remember I went to an All Blacks test. I've probably told you this before. I went to an All Blacks test a couple of years ago, and Smith, the scrum half, and I counted. Do you remember Smith, All Black?
He's
got. I watched him warm up, and he must have done 400, maybe 500 passes off the base of the scrum in a warm-up session. How many does he do in a normal practice day? And he was already the greatest halfback in the world.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous that people don't understand you have to practice every single day for the rest of your life.
Well, let's be honest, there's only 3 international halfbacks left in the world, so to be number one, you only got to be better than South Africa and Australia. It's not hard.
No.
Sorry for
the Irish. The Irish should have a word to say there, mate. Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to time. I think managing time is a big one. There's so many distractions in the world. The biggest distraction lives in your pocket, lives in your hand. I'm stunned. I'm a people watcher. I sit at places and just watch how addicted people are to their phones. I think you guys were speaking earlier off camera about this ability of people not to communicate, and they're just wasting their time on devices. They're stuck on them. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. It's just all time sucks. You can do great business there. As a marketer, I love them, but I think from a business owner, you almost need to readdress your time allocations for 2025.
Yeah.
And zig when everyone else is zagging. While everyone else is looking for AI to do the work for them, and shortcuts and hacks and non-interpersonal relationships, go the other way.
Yeah.
Get on the phone. Use your time better to form relationships. That's what I see in that. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I totally agree.
I'm with.
What do you reckon the power
100%.
of a personal relationship is, Darren? How important?
My view of those personal relationships is that's where I think businesses, especially in today's world, I think that's where business is won and lost. Is that if you can use all the social media, you can use all the connection components, but at the end of the day, we want to do business with people we like and trust, right? That's the way we work. So if you don't actually have that personal engagement and personal relationship that you build with people, you don't get trust. And I see this all the time. Like, Jonathan, we see this so much where we've got people that are spending lots and lots of time and effort on social media and wondering why their business has improved. In fact, it's gone back. So I've got a couple of clients where they've said to me, Darren, can we just hold fire while we go on this social media journey? And I've just watched their performance go back and back and back because they were going, look, we're just going to wait for social media to pick up our business. And you're like, no, it's a tool to help you generate those connections and engagement. And then you've got to get them in the reel. And the only way you do that is to get your team in the market.
Yeah, I think social media is the greatest warm-up tool.
Yes.
It's a warm-up tool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't replace the human connection. John, you're from the psychological background. Tell us, how important is it for humans to deal face-to-face with humans? You were quoting a study recently about disconnection, loneliness, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Darren was talking about the loneliness thing earlier, and I think everybody's addicted to this. You watch people. I couldn't believe it. I went to see a kiddies thing last night, which is trains with lights all over them. Steam trains down at Glenbrook. You've probably heard of it, Darren.
The miniature train.
I could not. No, real trains. I could not believe I'm watching people who aren't actually present. They're not actually there. They're watching a screen of what they're taking. They're not actually part of anything. They don't exist in the moment at all. They're putting it on their phone, and I don't know why, because who the hell's going to look at it? They're going to show their friends the photo once and that's it. Why would they? I just watched a bloody train. That's what we were there for. I didn't even have my phone with me.
Yeah.
I think they are a very seriously damaging thing. And I know I'm an old fogey, but for years and years and years, I've said how damaging these things are. And I think we're paying the price for it now.
Yeah, okay, boys.
Nobody took any note.
I find that in sport, Darren. You'll find that too with your kids. You go and sit in sport. My girls played in their hockey grand finals indoor this weekend. And some of the parents they're filming the whole game and not in the game. Like, I refuse to film my kids' games because I want to ride the emotion of it.
Good.
But it's
okay.
staggering.
Here's the best example of this. So we ended up going to the Coldplay concert here in Auckland, right?
Oh,
so you
yeah.
had 50,000 people at Coldplay, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy,
Chris Martin,
amazing connector with the audience. Like, I tell you now, the reason why that concert was so successful is that frontman's ability to connect with his audience, whether it's 5 people or 50,000 people. The whole audience felt like that every time he talked, he was talking to them individually, right? Mm-hmm. And he starts off a song, I don't know, did the first, 2 or 3 lines, stops. And he goes, you know what? I just want everybody in the audience to turn your phones off, put your phones in your pocket, and all we're going to do for this next song is just be all together. Not engaged, not recording it, just in the moment with 50,000 people. Right?
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Now, the numbers of people that I know that went to that concert, tell me which moment in the concert hit them the most and actually they remembered the most. That moment. Yeah. And I'm like, just to make the point. And there were people in the crowd looking at other people. So some people were like, oh, secretly record this, right? And there were people in the crowd that were looking at them like, did you not just hear what he said? He said, put your phone away. Like, it was like this self-regulating environment that was like, actually, we all just want to be here without those devices and actually just enjoy one song. And it was so cool. Very, very clever.
Okay. Darren, I've got a challenge for you then. You and I are going to have a spot of lunch tomorrow, right?
Yep.
These do not come out at all for the whole time.
Yes, John. It's going to be a challenge, mate. I don't know.
I might even leave mine at home, actually.
Oh, don't do that.
What time is that lunch? Because I might get Jules to call him just right at the time the lunch is on. Just see how get her to call 4 or 5 times in a row. See how strong he is. In your will.
I love it.
Darren?
Love it.
How many calls will Jules have to make before you relent and pick your phone up?
Jonathan, your timing of this conversation, especially on a podcast, isn't great right now. We've actually had this conversation a little bit earlier in the week where there were a number of phone calls in a very short space of time that didn't get answered. And yes, we're still working through that. But thanks very much for putting that online. And just to let everybody know, we're still happily married, but it was a conversation that we'll continue a little bit further towards Christmas, I'm picking. But thanks very much for your help.
I love it when I uncover these bits of gold. I had no idea about that, folks. Actually, I just tripped into that, which is even better. We'll talk about that off camera later, Darren. I love this. All right, on to work ethic. Number 4. I think it all comes down to activity rewards action.
Can someone please explain this to me? Because I did put this on the list, and I just want John for you to dig deep on this one a little bit for me, because I'm a little bit lost, to be honest, on this one, because I'm feeling like, what is work ethic now? Where have we gone in this space?
I think the challenge for almost everybody here is that they're currently, yes, they're probably doing more, but they're achieving less. Because times are tough.
Yeah, that's good call.
So they're then making the judgment, oh, well, look, I'm working harder, but less money's coming in. So something's not right here. So perhaps I shouldn't work so hard. The truth of the matter is, in tough times, you have to work hard to stand still. And if I think of it from a sporting perspective, you go through, the form is the magic word that the commentators use, but you go through times when you're still working your socks off, but you're not producing great times. And then 6 months down the road, if you just carry on working really, really, really hard, then it all comes to fruition and things seem to turn around. But there are times when you work bloody hard and nothing happens. And that's where we're in at the moment, because the financial environment we had at the beginning, it's a tough time. People haven't got any money. They don't want to pay invoices.
Yeah, don't we know about that? It's the era of the long invoice. I've got two takes on this. I think you're right, John. I think when things are tougher, that's when you should train harder.
But it's not going to pay off tomorrow.
No. I always used to, when I used to do triathlons, half Ironmans, different things like that, you'd train 250 kilometers a week on the bike. The weeks when you felt the worst were the weeks that you had to keep doing the work to get the rewards.
Yep.
If you backed off then, you fell apart on race day.
I
think the second one is, I think we're experiencing a generational shift. So we're paying the price of changes we made in the 90s. And the big shift in the 90s to the 2000s was that kids growing up in that era, everyone got a prize. It's the era, it's the participation certificate era, generation. And so what's happening is they're doing this work, they're working, they're not getting the prize, and so they go, well, I'm not going to do the work because because I'm used to getting prizes. But
not everybody's struggling. Some people will be understanding that.
Yes, we are painting a very broad brush, and there are exceptions to every rule, and I think there are plenty of exceptions out there. But if we're to look at the zeitgeist of the scenario, I just don't think I think we did a generation a disservice, and it's moving away from it now, particularly I'm saying in my kids' sport. We didn't build the fortitude. When I was a kid, one or two kids in the whole club got a trophy. Nowadays,
and now
you walk into presentation night, and there's like the table from the MCG long room full of trophies, and every kid leaves with one. And so there's no fortitude in, you've actually got to push to the next level to get the goods. And I think we're seeing that with...
Breathing doesn't qualify you for a bloody trophy. You're dead right.
Yeah,
achievement. You don't get a gold medal for turning up, do you? You get a gold medal because you win. And that's the way life is like that.
But in some sports, you do get the gold medal for showing up. That's
with kids sports, you get the gold medal for turning up, which is stupid. You know, you get winners and losers in life, and you know, if you lose, you've got to learn to live with the bloody loss. I tell you what, I think there's a whole generation.
Change the outcome by changing your behaviour.
There's a whole generation of people at my age who were taught how important the self-belief of your child was, and then we spent the whole bloody time trying to boost the self-belief of our child, and so we've now got kids that think that if we're not telling them they're brilliant, they must be really crap. And you can't tell them they're brilliant all day, every day. That's the problem. They're going to fail. Everybody fails practically all the time. We've got to get used to that.
I'll give you one of the greatest lessons that one of my children ever taught me, my oldest. So she was about 10, coming along in hockey, loved the sport of hockey, and very mathematical minded. And she sits there and she goes, Dad, and she wrote a poster with this. She goes, Dad, I train an hour a week. I play a game for an hour a week. That's 2 hours a week. But I want to be 3 times as good as anyone else. So I want to train with the boys on Tuesday night as well, which will take my training to 2 hours a week and 1 hour a week of the game. But then I want to do an hour of my own time. So at the end of the week, most kids have done 2 hours of hockey. I want to have done 6 hours of hockey. And just put in the time.
Yep.
And as a result, she got the better trophies. But there were some years where she didn't get the trophies, but she knew she was better.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we need to take into 2025 is if you're not getting the results that satisfy your needs, pay the lifestyle that you want to do, you have to look at work ethic. Yep. Everything else is a distraction. Skills, you have them if most of the time. If not, become really aware and go and get them. Find Darren to come and help you with sales training. Find John to come and help you with your mindset. But at the end of the day, you can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't work hard, apply them, there's no return.
I tell you, I'd like to add something to that. Even if you don't do the skill training, if you've got a high work ethic, you'll do something over and over and over again. And we've got the most amazing brain, and your brain's going to work out what is the best way of doing it. Even if you don't practice the skills, your brain is eventually going to work out by itself what's the best way of doing something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's, so you're dead right. I think work ethic should come in front of skill. It's more important, I believe. Skill is important, it is. But work ethic should be number one.
I think I love sport as an analogy for life. I think you see it in sport. A fit team with less skilled players will always beat a team of unfit skilled players.
Particularly at the end of the game when it's crucial. Because they're fitter, they last longer. Endurance, it's done it again. Endurance is the key.
Yeah,
that's it. It is. It's the fittest team that wins. The one that works the hardest. Not the most skilled. I mean, the most talented, smartest person I know in the world who I met at school is basically unemployed, has been full-time in life. The smartest person I know sells, junk at a flea market. Literally what they do. And I'm like, oh my God, you are the smartest person I've ever met. Like, I don't know how this has happened. But there's no ethic. They haven't been taught to work.
And that I think is just for me is the summary that I just want to make on this is everybody has a work ethic. Everybody has their own work ethic. And my challenge is what would it be if you increase that work ethic by just 10% or 20%, 10 or 20%? If you increase for next year your work ethic by 10 to 20%, so not a massive big shift, but just a lot more attentive of knowing, well, what's my work ethic right now? And if I increased it by 10 or 20%, what would the new environment look like? And if I just got really clear on this is how I'm going to increase my work ethic, that 20%, what would next year look like? And it might not massively shift the numbers because, as you're saying, the market, depending on the market conditions, but boy, oh boy, how much better at your role will you be? And how much more learning will you carry out over that year if you're just being able to get that extra 10 to 20% more in that focus and that work ethic? I just think for me, next year is
time. People are going to say, I haven't got the time to do that. Well, the solution is to throw this bloody thing in the bin.
Yeah.
Because that's stealing my time. How much time do you spend on that thing rather than, as you say, working towards your goals, working towards what you want to achieve?
Yeah, I'm not a hater of the tool of the mobile phone because I think it can actually make you work harder if you use it properly. But be really self-aware and monitor how you are using these tools. There's a self-awareness around, Darren does it with me all the time. The calendar test. Have a look at your calendar. What are you doing with your time? Map every 15 minutes of your day. Was it productive, non-productive? And I think there's another shift too, and maybe it's a result of COVID because it was such a circuit breaker. Maybe people just don't know how to do the work or do the extra work. Like they don't have the ideas of, okay, I make my 10 calls and I send 5 emails and then I deal with existing clients, but they don't have the creativity to do what's next to take them again. So they just be busy rather than actually working.
Yep.
I was if I was to look at this year, this time last year, I was filling my days with busyness. Now, the transition I've gone through this year, and Darren, I thank you for this significantly, is I'm looking at what is productive activity. Is this money productive? Am am I putting my full self-exertion into money productive tasks? And that's how I
We
judge
used to
what I do
call
now.
that wheel spinning. You're doing a lot, but you're not going anywhere. We used to call it that. And so what you're saying is you ease back a bit, drop down a gear, and just take it slightly easier, but you're just working harder and longer in the direction you want to go. I think you're dead right.
Yeah, the biggest challenge for me was letting go of the smaller tasks of having things perfect that don't really matter. So yesterday, I use Vimeo for my clients. I send videos to them on Vimeo. They've had a big hack with their payment plans. I want to downgrade my subscription. So I had to delete 500 gig of videos off Vimeo, but I didn't want to lose them. I wanted to make sure I had a backup. I spent 3 hours sitting there. Can I delete this one? Oh, yeah, I've got a copy of it here. Bang, bang. Complete waste of my time. So after 3 hours, I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just going to pay the extra $100 a year, and I'm going to ring 5 clients, and more than earn that $100 back. So it's about weighing up the tasks, right, Darren?
Wheel spinning. That's exactly what you were doing. Going nowhere, but working hard.
Yeah, but I know these subscriptions, they creep the prices up, and it hurts every time you got to pay them. But when you weigh it up about what you could actually be doing, that's why they're so good, these platforms, because they know, we can push them a little bit higher, because really, what's $150 in the scheme of 12 months?
That's it.
Not a lot.
So IPA is my new line. IPA, which is beer. You know the IPA beer?
Yeah.
It also stands for income producing activity.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the piece though, and I use this now a lot in presentations. So I put up these pictures of a glass of beer, and said that's my focus, and it's IPA, which is income producing activity, right? And I tell you that the light bulbs that people have go on, because a lot of the time that busyness does not create us any opportunity to increase our revenue or increase our business opportunity. And you did right, Jonathan. What you're doing is you're just being really self-aware of going, actually, I could make you busy 40 hours a week and make no money, but you're busy. So when you're self-employed or you're a senior person in a big business, you cannot afford to be busy. You have got to be super effective. And I think the big thing for us, when we look at the year and where we've been, we've got to make sure we refresh ourselves into 2025 around this, because I think if you come back next year with that real determination and understanding what that's going to look like for you, I think the opportunities are going to be huge.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is I went through a process where I was monitoring what I was doing every day, and then I was putting a value on the outcome.
Oh, good work. Well done.
If I'm doing this and it's to be successful,
well done.
How much is it worth? Let me find the sheet of paper, actually. I got it here.
Can I add one thing to this?
Sorry?
Can I add? We're if we only focused on IPA, then we would lose our relationships.
No. But relationships do generate income.
Well, what I'm suggesting is we need to put a bit more time into our relationships, which might not be producing income. I'm just thinking it's a good idea, to answer the phone call from the missus.
Yeah.
No. But as many people will tell you, if that relationship breaks down, it's income reducing activity. So relationships are key. But look at this. This is the sheet for those who are watching on YouTube. You can see this. So pre-Christmas prospects got their numbers where it's at, and at the end, dollar value. How much is talking to this person and doing this activity? It's not just people, but it's things that I had to get done. Dollar value if it comes off. And Darren, I picked that up from you, I'm pretty sure. Stole it, put it into a template. And
And as soon as you get that clarity, you know where to spend your time. If you're sitting there going, I could download videos, or I could talk to a customer that potentially is worth $10,000 or $15,000 to me, I'm pretty sure I know which one you need to be done.
Yeah, and it was that sheet of paper sitting in front of me while I was checking the videos that started to burn into my conscience, and I'm like, I could be doing this.
That's gold.
Maybe I could get my kids who are on school holidays to be doing this Vimeo thing for me. Like, that's possible. And they're very cheap. I'll give them free rent in return for the work. But yeah, I think that's the strategy. Is what a great transition and transformational episode today's been. A great wrap up. We've started off from talking about my word was sluggish. John, your word was what at the start of the episode again?
Don't know. Can't remember. Endurance? No, that's my keyword this year.
Tough. Something. Darren's was tough. And
Darren's was tough.
John, you were just enjoying pina coladas in the nursing in Sunny Hills.
Alzheimer's, actually.
What was it? Sorry.
Alzheimer's.
No.
That's what I.
No, you don't. So we started sluggish, and now we've gone back to being really focused and auditing your behaviour in a sense. Building relationships, income producing activity is great, and just adding a touch of savage. If we go back to that Milton the Monster, and just a touch of tenderness. No. A shake of savageness. I think that's the formula for 2025. Be active. Be really smart and sharp about the activities that you engage yourself in, and make sure you always assign a dollar value to the back end. And be human. They're the 4 things you need to do. That's it. Just replay that last 10 seconds and give us a message or call on how 2025 turns out for you, I think.
Yeah. John, for
the
you?
world turns.
What about you for next year, John, in terms of Christmas going into the new year? Like, especially if you are, in terms of getting your thinking right, in terms of, there's been some challenges this year. What do you want to do over Christmas?
Christmas over here is very different to how it is in the UK, and I'm still on UK mode. We've got somebody from the UK here staying with us at the moment. I've got to finish this. This might sound negative, but I've got to finish my input with this thing. I was in Nelson, walking the Able Tasman last week, and a mate of mine is 60, and he has just suddenly had cancer and had most of his insides removed. And I'll tell you what, when we sit here talking about our problems, I just keep thinking about him, thinking to myself, he's got 2 bags, by the way. He's got 2 bags, and he calls them Derek and Clive. You know, Derek and Clive. And I think to myself, my problems are 0 compared to his problems. So when we are facing the tough times, I never forget, somebody said to me, if you've got a tough time, just go and visit the Burns ward. Go and check out the people that are really struggling, because we're not struggling. That's the thing. We're not struggling. So it's easy to get into a downward spiral unless you check out the people who are really suffering.
I mean, there are people out there who think that they're broken on the bones of their backsides, earning $80,000 a year, not understanding that probably puts them in the top 5% of earners on the planet. Right. Now, they might not be comfortable at $80,000 a year. They might want 150 or 200, but it only comes through activities. And I think you're right, John. That's a great lesson from your friend, is that you never know what's around the corner, so you better get going now.
Absolutely.
I think too many people wait. They're waiting for it. Oh, tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. You never get there. So
great session, fellas. I really enjoy these conversations because I think it just helps in terms of where 2025 needs to be. Think about this year that's been. It hasn't been easy. It hasn't been perfect. But I tell you what, getting to the end of this one and to be able to take some time and refresh and recover and reset, I think this is just the the perfect time to be doing this. So great session, fellas. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this one.
And I
It's
think
really
for
good.
people, if you're taking the Christmas break, if you're taking time off, make sure you take the time off. Don't half take the time off. Go for some big walks, hang out with some family, do some things that challenge you, some fun things. And then when you come back, spend some time learning, expanding your brain, finding your weaknesses and reading some books about them or watching some videos about them, whatever it is. But as a guy called Nigel Risner says, if you're going to be in the room, be in the room. If you're going to be on holidays, be on holidays.
Yeah,
the hybrid doesn't work. Anyway, guys, Darren, I just want to wrap this up by thanking you for another great year on the Blink podcast. I think we got 13 episodes, not a record, but gee, the quality was there. We were up and about this year.
We had a bloody good year, so that was amazing. Yeah,
we've got some big plans for the podcast next year. We've done our pre-season over the last 3 years, and 2025 we're going to take it to another level. John, you've been our most regular guest because you're the guy who answers his phone when we call, so thank you for that. And from the Blink podcast and crew, we just want to say thank you to all the listeners and people who've shared our work and shared the message, and thank you so much. And we'll be back probably with a New Year's episode. I reckon Darren will sneak one in before you head out of mobile phone range, and just see what we can do with setting up 2025.
That'd be amazing. Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
And peace.
See you soon.